Hey y'all, how's it going? Today is February 6th and I am so happy because today is one of nature's aberrations. The weather feels like it's 55 degrees outside, which is why I'm wearing sleeveless top. I was wearing a thick sweater earlier and I was sweating just prepping all this stuff, so I had to take it off. Today we're going to be talking about how to plant a camellia in a container. Yesterday I went shopping and I got my first camellia sasanqua. This is a variety called Shishigashira, I think. She is so lovely. This is my first Camellia sasanqua. I have had 4 Camellia japonica in containers for the last 2 years, and at first I was a little afraid because camellias, usually when you see them, they're grown in ground and they get really big and really showy, and in my situation, I don't have a shady area that is suitable for camellia, so the only place that I have for them is on my patio, which is really sunny, but I have like nooks and crannies that where I can like hide them, so they are protected from afternoon sun. So because of my situation, I am kind of forced to grow them in containers. And at first I was really scared, but then I tried it and it's been really working really well for me for the last 2 years. So I'm here to share what I do when I plant camellias and how to make it bloom and how to make it like healthy. So first let's talk about the container size. So this Camellia sasanqua that I got yesterday, she comes in a 5-gallon container. The width of this diameter of this container is about 10 inches. So what I will do is I will pot her up to a container that is this size, which is the same size as what I have right here next to me. This one is a Camellia japonica, and I've had it for 2 years. It has a lot of buds and it's looking really healthy, even though this year, just last month, we were hit with pretty deep freeze for about 10 days, and some of my camellias got burned and the buds are kind of falling off. Like on this one, for example, this is also a Camellia japonica, a really broadleaf variety. I will show you a closer look later, but this one was really blooming up until like Christmas time, until we had the until it was hit with a really bad frost. So anyway, back to the container. So I am going to pot that 5-gallon container up to this size container. This container is 17 inches wide and about 15 to 16 inches tall. It is I drilled a bunch of holes. I'm not sure if you can see, maybe it's too dark, but it came with only 1 hole when I bought it, but it's not enough, you guys. So if you have plastic, if you decide to go with plastic containers like I do, you could drill more holes at the bottom. And the reason I go with plastic containers is because it's light and it's like sturdy, and I can lift this by myself without having to ask my husband for help. I do move my camellias a lot, and after I plant, I put the container on a dolly or like some type of wheels, so that I don't have to constantly lift it. I can just kick them around like on the patio, depending on the time of day. And in the winter time, what I do is I lift it up and put it on a little stand so that I can see the blooms right out of my windows, which is one of my favorite things in the winter. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of like rambling on, but that's the containers that I use. Next is soil. Let's talk about soil. So I get asked sometimes, what soil do I use? Do I do anything special? I don't really, because I'm a beginner. Like, I don't mix my own soil. But if you go on the websites, some websites will tell you that you can mix fine pine bark together with coarse pine bark and then you could mix a little bit of peat moss, not a whole lot because peat moss like absorbs a lot of water. These guys do not like wet soil. Most important thing is your soil needs to be well draining. So any potting mix that is made for container plants, they have that quality. So this one, I've used this a lot, and I think this is local made. It's a brand called Cedar Grove. This is a potting mix that I've used because it's so easy to find in my area. If you can get your hands on organic soil, that's probably even better. And then I use Miracle Grow too. Let me grab that real quick. Miracle Grow potting mix, I mean, you can't go wrong with this. Last year I saw Miracle Grow moisture control potting mix on sale at my local Costco, so I bought a whole bunch of those and I used them in these containers. Now, is it important to use moisture control soil? I don't think so. Not for my case anyway, because I'm the controller of the amount of water that goes into the container. These guys sit on my patio that is protected. Like, I have a roof. My patio is part roofed and part open, so I keep these guys like in the like roofed area, and I'm the only one that waters them, so I control how much water goes in the container. So it's not, I don't think it's important to use like moisture control soil. So this will work too. Now the pH level of the potting mix that in the bags is usually neutral. So what you would like to do for your camellias, or what I'd like to do for my camellias, is I mix in a little bit of soil acidifier. But it doesn't have to be the specific brand. I mean, you can use anything really. And the instruction says that you mix in 1 tablespoon for each 4 inches of pot diameter. So this one is 17 inches, so you mix in about 4 tablespoons, probably equivalent to like a handful, okay, no more than that. So I mix that with the soil when I do this. Now with these tiny pot holes that I drilled at the bottom, I prevent those holes from clogging up by like putting in small rocks or gravel, like whatever I could grab like around the area. So let's start doing that together. There you go. So I pour that in there, and now I make sure that my holes are not going to be clogged up. And then you start mixing your soil. You want to make sure that you don't have like hard clumps of soil in here, so you want to just break it up a little bit with your hands, and then pat it down a little to make sure you don't have air bubbles. So I mix in like a couple of inches first, and then I water it to make sure I have like moisture in there. Because once you know, the plant goes in, it's going to sink a little bit when the soil settles. So I just like to make sure that, you know, there are no air bubbles and the soil is like consistently moist in the pot. And then let's take a look at this guy's root system. So let's see what this looks like. So after we plant this Camellia sasanqua. In my next video, I'm going to be talking about the differences between Camellia sasanqua and Camellia japonica, and you know, which variety is probably best for you. All right, so let's see now. Very nice and healthy plants. I see stuff growing here on top here, and I think that's indicative of good soil. So here's an up close look of the root system of camellias. Let's see. So let's place this in its new home. When you lift your plant, you don't want to grab it by the trunk. You want to lift from the root ball. So I put that in there. And I think that is the height that I'd like. So okay. So one thing that I forgot to do just now is mix in my first tablespoon of soil acidifier in the first layer of the soil. So I'm going to do that right now. That is going to be my first tablespoon, and I'm allowed to do 4 tablespoons according to the instruction. So that is the bottom soil in my container. I like my camellia to sit a little bit high. I leave about ½ an inch or an inch of room on the top for mulch and such, but not more than that because the container is already small, and I want the camellias to last in here for at least 2 to 3 years before I have to repot or pot up again. And so now that we've done that, we can just mix or fill up this container with the rest of the soil. I'm gonna put the soil in here first. And then just mix it up in there. And then the rest with more soil, and I'm not putting any more soil acidifier. I think I should even put less than 4 tablespoons because this container is not exactly 17 inches because it's narrower at the bottom. So every time the instruction says use this and this and this amount, I always go a little bit less, whether it's fertilizer or soil acidifier or anything like that at all, because I feel like underdoing it is better than overdoing it. You won't believe how many plants I have killed by over fertilizing. Okay, so as I go in, I make sure I pat it down just a little, ever so slightly, to make sure that I don't have like air bubbles in the soil. The next question you might wonder is, how long can this camellia stay in this pot? I would say at least 3 years. It should be okay. And after 3 years, you know, the soil is probably all depleted of nutrients. You will have to repot it or move up to a bigger container if you'd like. What does it mean to have bigger containers? It means that your camellia will grow bigger, wider, taller. If that is what you want, you could plant it in a much bigger container after this one, but I wouldn't recommend planting it in big containers right away, because you're allowing room for root rot, too much moisture, too much watering, or underwatering. It's just not a good idea to go from like a tiny pot to like super big pot. And that's it, everyone. That's how you grow camellias in containers. So to summarize, you want to go from a small pot or whatever pot that your camellias come in to a slightly bigger pot, maybe like 5-6 inches wider in diameter. It doesn't really matter which soil or potting mix you use, as long as it's a potting mix or potting soil that's made for container plants. And because these are acidic soil loving plants, you want to mix in a little bit of soil acidifier together with your potting mix when you plant them. And once you've finished moving your camellia to its new home, you want to water it deeply right away and watch water drain from the bottom. This is another good way to make sure that you have good drainage. In terms of fertilizing, I do it one time in the springtime, or whenever it's done with its blooming cycle. This is the best time to fertilize, and it's also the best time to prune your camellias. I use fertilizer that is specifically made for azalea, rhododendron, and camellia. So far, I've gotten good results, but one thing you need to watch out for is to not over fertilize ever, because it's more harmful than good. What else? I think that's pretty much it about camellias. These plants are not fussy at all. It's pretty easy to grow. If you live in USDA zone 7, 8, 9, 10, or sometimes down to zone 6, depending on which camellia varieties you're looking at, I encourage you to go out and get your camellias and plant them either in ground or in containers. If you continue to watch my next video, I'll be talking about the differences between Camellia sasanqua and Camellia japonica, and maybe you'll it'll help you decide which camellia variety is best in your situation. Thank you for watching my video today, guys. Happy gardening. Bye.